Hey, I take too many lazy pictures. Like pictures where the execution is okay, like they are sharp, well balanced, the exposure is right. I set my camera to the right speed and set the aperture to f8 because that's when my lens is at its best and I take the picture. And they turn out uninteresting, technically okay, but emotionally just totally empty. And I struggle with that constantly, like pictures like this. Now, this happens often to me when the conditions are ideal and I have good gear and the lighting conditions are fine. It's just too easy. And what I found is, which is kind of counterintuitive, is that the better are the conditions and the better is my gear, very often the less interesting are my pictures. And that's why I'm currently drawn to primitive tools like pinhole cameras and these Holgas and others, because they make me work harder to get good pictures. And that's probably why I also like film photography, because it is difficult. And I need to take into account a lot of things that with the modern gear I wouldn't need to worry about. And that struggle, that extra work shows in my picture. I claim it shows in my picture and makes them look better. So my primary tool against lazy pictures is to limit myself gear-wise, but even more limit myself environmental-wise, like make the situation a bit harder for myself. Now let me show you what I mean. I currently love situations where there is simply too little light. There's not enough light for me to just go and shoot, but I need to do something to compensate the lack of light. Also, I limit myself in those situations by not using a tripod. Well, for me, that's not really a limitation, it's more like a liberation. To me, and I've said that before, shooting with a tripod is like sailing with your anchor lowered. I mean, it looks like sailing, but it's not a lot of fun. Sorry guys, I know there's a lot of photographers there, excellent photographers who always want to shoot with a tripod, but that's not me. Maybe later, maybe when I grow up, I don't know. But right now, handheld is the way to go, and also in dark conditions. So what I do is that I set my camera to a bulb mode and then I shoot, 2 to 3 second exposures. So I get this intentional camera movement. Or actually it's unintentional because I want to keep it as steady as possible. But with 2 seconds, 3 seconds, even more, you get some blurriness. I mean, there's no way you can hold your camera steady in your hand. You get enough light though. But what do you do then to compensate the lack of sharpness and your camera movement? You need to compose your picture so that there are really strong elements included, like lights and really dark elements. If everything is sort of like gray and medium, then you just get the fuzzy, not interesting, like a wallpaper. But if there are strong lights, they draw often something interesting, and you can emphasize the darkness and you can emphasize the movement, therefore making a more interesting picture, at least what I think, and then also make it not look lazy. Now, let me show you what I mean. Okay, so we limited ourselves in terms of light. Also, there was some movement that made it harder. But I kind of like those pictures. So now what if we go further in limiting ourselves? Now I had this project a while ago where I wanted to photograph some of my musical gadgets. I got all kind of, funny things at my disposal. That some of them I use to make noise, sometimes called music. But these are interesting things to photograph. I kind of like the look of some of these things. And so in my project I wanted to photograph these. But instead of just shooting a bland image like a cover of a sales box or a brochure, I wanted to create a little bit movement into these pictures. And now instead of using bulb mode, I used multiple exposures. Now it gives different kind of view than the bulb mode. Instead of being just mushy, you get multiple sharp images on top of each other. So now I'm limiting the lightness, I'm limiting the subject matter to my instruments, and then I'm taking multiple exposures to overcome some of these limitations. So this kind of pictures. Okay, now one step further. Let's limit ourselves even more and now continue working in the very limited light conditions. So too little light, musical gadgets, all kind of gadgets. And now let's add one light source, just one single light source. And put it so that I shoot against the light, but so that I can get this light somehow into this picture, so that this light, this single stupid light source, becomes an element of my picture. Extremely limiting. Too little light, one light source, musical instruments. And I get these kind of pictures. Hey, so the last set of pictures were taken not with my Holga, but they were taken with Rolleiflex using a Rolleinar close-up lens, just for you gear freaks who want to know those things. I mean, it's important. I think that the camera and the tools that you use, they should leave a mark to your photographs, and that's why it's important to know which camera was used. And then there's one extra benefit when you do hard work like that. You get a series of pictures that, because of those peculiar limitations, they have something in common. They may have the light source in common. They may have this blurriness in common. Something that ties them together, and then that means that you can create a series of pictures, a body of work that sort of belong. especially in the case of me shooting musical instruments with the same camera, using the same light source and same direction, very strongly the same feeling into the pictures. So then that to me is an extra benefit when you limit yourself. So I guess the summary of this little video was that, at least to me currently, I like to limit myself, I like to use primitive gear, and I like to find ways to overcome those limitations, work really hard. And then I claim that that extra work shows in my pictures, and in my vocabulary they make them less lazy, which I think is good. See you later.